What up? It's your boy Nick Incredible Man, and this is 911 Lone Star Season 3, Episode 10, discussion slash review titled Parental Guidance. And I gotta say, big ups to Mateo this episode, man. Let's talk about it.
Yo, fight until you make it, yo, don't think it, no, just take it. Don't wait for someone to break it, take control, then don't just take it. Hey, you can make it happen, you just gotta take some action. Take the ship and be the captain.
Gotta give props to where props is due, man. Mateo went from a probie to a lieutenant. Big ups on that, man. This episode, it wasn't great. It was a good episode, but it wasn't great. And I'm not knocking or anything like that because it was a good episode. It just wasn't great. But I will say this, it was great for Mateo. We got to see a lot of development for Mateo as a character because we see how he's constantly joking or doing the one-liners, and he's always there as, you know, like the little helper for the 126. But this episode, we got to see Mateo be the star and have the spotlight because he was helping the captain from the 129, aka Captain Tatum. Now, we see that Captain Tatum lost his lieutenant in this episode. Well, he didn't lose him in this episode, but this episode they showcased that he had lost his lieutenant, and Mateo was there to help him through that process. We see that he's Captain Tatum's at a bar drinking. You know, he's blackout drunk. He's passing out, and he told the bartender that Mateo was his son to call Mateo, and Mateo dropped everything to help him. And when he saw it was Captain Tatum, you know, he was a little taken aback because, like, he said it was his father, and he was like, "Nah, man, my dad doesn't drink." And for one, he's in Guadalajara, so I don't know what they're talking about. So he goes and sees that it's Captain Tatum because Captain Tatum helped him when, like, they were in the whole process of not having the 126, you know, because he went to the 129. That's not the only thing that we have this episode. That's like the majority of the episode we see. But at the very beginning, we see that we bump into this same lady again that ran over her husband last week. This week, she hits a night. This lady, I mean, to be fair though, she was going to keep focus on the road, and her husband distracted her this time, and then the night guy kind of walked in the street. So it's not totally on her, but I feel like she's at this point now to where she might don't want to drive anymore because, you know, she just happens to keep hitting people while she's driving. But it was nice to see them, and then everybody recognized, hey, ain't you the lady from last week that ran over your husband? Yes, that's me. Then Grace recognized her voice and her name and everything. So it was funny with that aspect. And then Mateo was like, we should really come check this place out later on. You know what I'm saying? It still had the comedy aspect to it. But we're also still reeling with the aspects of Paul having his heart attack. And everybody's there to, you know, help him. They came to check on him that night. Everybody except for Marjan. Marjan is not there. Paul's a little worried why she's not there, but they're having this whole butting head conflict, if you will, because Paul doesn't know how to apologize to Marjan for the way that he acted towards her, and she's not reaching out to him at all. So they're kind of just butting heads a little bit with this situation, and we see that everybody's realizes that they need to knock it off. They need to get back to being who they were, which is best buddies. And nobody wants to take up that mantle, man. And the judge was like, y'all a bunch of yellow bellies. You know what I'm saying? I'll do it, but y'all a bunch of yellow bellies. And then he comes to confront her and everything. And we learned this episode why they're butting heads is because Paul doesn't know how to apologize, and he hasn't apologized to Marjan. And we see that he feels guilty about it, because, you know, in that moment he was upset. He's not upset anymore, but he still hasn't reached out and apologized, and Marjan is not going to make that first step. But this is where Mateo comes in, because we see that he's dealing with the whole thing with Captain Tatum and his memory kind of fading in and out, and he steps up. He's trying to get like some idea and some questions about this whole entire situation dealing with Captain Tatum, but Marjan assumes that he's talking about her particular situation with Paul, and she just goes off. And like the whole episode, we see that Mateo is trying to be there for Captain Tatum, but while handling some other things as well, because now Captain Tatum wants him to become a lieutenant at the 129. And we see Owen feels it like it's a betrayal because Mateo could at least thought about it before he jumped the gun and said yes. But we know why Mateo wants to take this job, because he wants to help Captain Tatum, because Captain Tatum helped him when, you know, they didn't have the 126. We see that him and Mateo and Marjan are going back and forth at each other, and she kind of just lays into him and he lays into her about not cooperating with Paul and his whole moment that he's having. Like it was heavy this episode, especially for Mateo, because we got to see him in a different light. Normally, he's not the most forefront member of the 126 because he hasn't been a firefighter as long as everybody else. And we see that in a lot of the episodes, but this episode we got to see him push to the forefront and realize his worth for himself and for us, the viewers, because now at the end of the episode, he decided to tell on Captain Tatum, the higher ups, but he's back on the 126, and Owen told him, as a captain, you need to go talk to the higher ups right now, and I'm ordering you to do it, because Captain Tatum almost got members of the 126 killed in that fire. And this episode, it was a little heavy because you could see like how it's constantly being brought up every time something comes up. What are you doing here? Like, he forgot so many things that he already supposedly knew. And we see Mateo in a different light this episode, where I'm not saying he's not caring, but we see that he wants to care for Captain Tatum and he wants to keep his secret, but at behest of injuring other firefighters, he can't keep this secret anymore. He has to tell. And I realized at the end of the episode, we see that this is just breaking Mateo, but in the long run, it's something that had to be done. And him and Captain Tatum ended on the best terms, and the captain gave him his little beaded thing, to connect them and everything. So it was very nice for Mateo. Now let's talk about Paul. Paul is in a rut. Like, he's had this whole PTSD moment about his heart and having the heart attack, and he doesn't want to do anything. He's just sitting around the house in his pajamas, eating donuts. And the same pajamas you had on the other day? No, these are similar. These aren't the same. But we see that Judd and Owen are trying to get him out of that funk. And we see that they take him to the training course to try to get him back in his groove. And he's just not really feeling it. But he decides to go through with it anyway, and he beats the time. Now, it was questionable because it was maybe 3 or 4 seconds left. But he beat the time, and that pushed him to actually retake it, to be recertified with everybody there. Marjan came, everybody's there cheering him on. But while he's taking the test, it shocks his heart, like in the middle of the test. But he was not defeated. He trudged on, and I gotta say, like, in that moment when he went down, I was a little shocked. But like, we heard it kind of and kick back in, and he got right back up, and he was like, I ain't gonna lie though, it hurt. I tell you, it hurt. But he got back up and he went through with it. But what I loved is that he was like, hey Cap, you are eating into my time. I gotta go. So it ended on a high note. And like I said, it wasn't a great episode, but it was a very good episode, especially for Mateo. And we got to see Paul kind of get over his PTSD a little bit. And hopefully he'll be on modified duty, but it'll be nice to see him back, because I don't think they'll let him go into houses and everything like that with the possibility of him being, being down with his heart like that, because sure, he can do it and he can pass the certification test, but he can't go into building, because if he does, what if he goes down and get trapped or something? It may be more than what it's worth. So I think he'll be on modified duty when he comes back. But it was nice nonetheless to see him kind of get over that hump, man. This was a good episode. I want to say great, but it wasn't. It was a very, very good episode, but I loved it nonetheless, man. This is What Incredible, man. Don't forget to smash that like button until you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them, and subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. Peace out.
I cannot complain, because today, I'm doing my